DuoTale English.
where every story teaches you English.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DuoTale English. I am Marcus, and I am in a very good mood today.
And I am Lena, and yes, Marcus has been in a very good mood since he walked in. He was humming.
I was not humming.
You were 100% humming. What was the song?
I genuinely do not know. It was just a sound, a happy sound.
A happy sound. I love that. Okay, so why are you in such a good mood?
Honestly, I had a really good conversation yesterday, with a stranger, actually. I was waiting for a bus, it was raining, classic, and there was a man next to me also waiting, and we just started talking about the rain, about the bus being late, about the neighborhood, and we talked for almost 20 minutes.
Oh, I love that. Conversations with strangers are some of the best ones.
They really are, and I came away from it feeling so alive. You know that feeling? When a simple conversation just lifts your whole day?
Completely. And that is actually the perfect way to start today's episode, because today we are talking about speaking, specifically why so many English learners think too much and talk too little, and what happens when you finally just start talking.
Stop thinking, start talking. That is today's whole message in 4 words.
4 words, but there is a lot behind those 4 words. And before we get into it, welcome to everyone who is new here. On DuoTale English, every episode, we have a real conversation, tell a real story, and break down the most important vocabulary at the end.
And this episode, episode 6, is especially designed for B1 level learners. So if you are at intermediate level and you want to practice understanding natural, real English conversation, this one is for you.
Please subscribe if you have not already and share with a friend who is learning English. Okay, Marcus, are you ready?
Ready and still humming internally.
Perfect. Let us go. So, Marcus, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you knew what you wanted to say in English? You had the words, you had the idea, but you just could not make yourself say it out loud.
Oh yes, 100% yes. Early on when I was learning, I used to go through this whole process in my head before saying anything. Translate from my language, check the grammar, check the pronunciation, make sure the sentence makes sense, and by the time I had done all of that, the conversation had moved on completely.
The conversation just went without you.
Without me, and I would just smile and nod and pretend I had been following along the whole time.
The smile and nod. Everyone who has learned a language knows exactly that moment. You have absolutely no idea what just happened, but you're nodding like you definitely do.
Nodding enthusiastically at something that might have been a question.
Someone asks, "Do you want more soup?" And you just nod confidently, and then you have 3 bowls of soup you didn't want.
That has 100% happened to me. Not with soup specifically, but yes, the confident nod that commits you to things you did not mean to agree to.
Okay, so what is actually happening when we do this, when we overthink and then miss our moment?
I think it comes down to one word: fear. We're afraid of sounding wrong, afraid of making a grammar mistake, afraid of mispronouncing a word, afraid of looking silly.
And that fear creates this internal editor, this little voice in your head that checks everything before it's allowed out. And the problem is, the editor is too slow. Real conversation doesn't wait for the editor to finish.
Real conversation is fast. It's spontaneous. It doesn't wait for you to conjugate your verb correctly before moving on.
And here's the thing that most learners don't realize. Native speakers make mistakes too. All the time. They start sentences they don't finish. They use the wrong word and correct it mid-sentence. They say and you know constantly, and nobody cares.
Nobody, because the point of conversation is connection, not perfection. You connect through meaning, not through flawless grammar.
And today, we are going to prove that through the story of someone called James.
James is 23 years old. He's been studying English for 6 years. 6 years! He knows a lot of vocabulary, he understands grammar rules, he can read articles in English without much difficulty.
But if you sit James down and ask him to have a simple conversation in English, he completely freezes.
Like, completely. He can't get a sentence out. And the frustrating thing, the thing that drives James absolutely crazy, is that he knows the words. They're in there. He just can't access them when he needs them.
It's like having all the ingredients for a meal in your kitchen, but not being able to cook because someone is watching you.
Oh, that's such a good analogy. The ingredients are there, the recipe is there, but the moment someone is watching, your hands stop working.
So James joins an English conversation class, not a grammar class, a conversation class. And on his very first day, the teacher says something that surprises him.
What does she say?
She says, in this class, there are two rules. Rule number one, you must speak, always, even when you're not sure, even when you think you might be wrong. Open your mouth and let the words come out.
And rule number 2?
Rule number 2, nobody in this room is allowed to apologize for their English. No, sorry, my English is bad. No, sorry, I make mistakes. No apologizing. You are here to practice. Mistakes are practice. They are not failures.
I love that teacher already.
Right? She sounds incredible. So James sits there and he thinks, okay, no apologizing, just speak. He can do this.
Famous last words.
Famous last words. The teacher pairs everyone up. James is paired with a woman called Rosa. She's from Brazil. She's been learning English for 2 years, less than James. And the task is, tell your partner about your weekend. 2 minutes, go.
2 minutes. That sounds so short, but when you're nervous, 2 minutes is an eternity.
An absolute eternity. So Rosa goes first, and James listens. And Rosa makes mistakes. Her verb tenses are not always right. She mixes up some words. She stops mid-sentence a couple of times and says, how do I say this? And then just describes it a different way.
And does James think less of her?
Not even slightly. He's completely engaged. He's following her story. He's interested. He smiles at the right moments. He asks a question when she pauses. He understands everything she's saying, despite the mistakes, maybe even because of the way she works around the mistakes, because it feels real. It feels human.
And then it's James' turn.
Then it's James' turn, and he freezes. For about 3 seconds, he just sits there, his mouth slightly open, his brain running at 1,000 miles an hour. And then something the teacher said comes back to him. Open your mouth and let the words come out. And he opens his mouth. And the first thing he says is, so, my weekend, okay, I went to a market on Saturday.
He corrected himself mid-sentence.
He corrected himself mid-sentence, like a real speaker. And Rosa smiles and says, oh, nice, what kind of market? And suddenly they're in a conversation, a real one, a flowing one, about markets and food and what James bought, which was a secondhand book and some strawberries. Very exciting morning for James.
The secondhand book and the strawberries.
Very exciting morning for James. And 2 minutes later, when the teacher says stop, James realizes he hasn't stopped once to check his grammar. He hasn't translated a single word in his head. He just talked, and it worked.
That moment when you realize, oh, it actually worked. I actually communicated without the editor, without the checking. I just talked, and the other person understood me. That's a genuinely life-changing moment for a language learner.
It really is, because it breaks the myth that says you have to be perfect before you can speak. James was not perfect. He said, I go instead of I went for half a second, but he corrected it and kept going, and the conversation happened anyway.
The conversation happened anyway. That's the whole lesson.
So James keeps going to this class every week, and every week it gets a little easier. Not perfect, but easier. And he starts noticing things about how he speaks that he never noticed before.
Like what?
He notices that when he stops trying to be perfect, his English actually gets better, not worse, better, because he's using words more. He's practicing combinations he would never have tried if he was being careful.
You can't learn to swim by reading about water. You have to get in. And getting in messy and imperfect is still getting in. The water doesn't care if your technique is perfect.
Perfectly said. And he also notices people are much more patient than he thought they would be. When he struggles with a word, people wait. They don't laugh, they don't walk away, they just wait. And sometimes they even try to help.
Because most people want the conversation to work. It's in everyone's interest for the communication to succeed. Nobody is secretly hoping you will fail.
Nobody, except maybe that one person who, well, actually, even then, most people genuinely just want to connect. They're not judging your grammar, they're listening for your meaning.
And 3 months into the class, James's teacher asks him to give a short presentation. 3 minutes about anything he wants, in front of the whole class.
And 6 months ago, the old James would have said no, would have made an excuse, would have gone home and not come back the following week.
But
But this James, the one who's been practicing for 3 months, says yes. He does the presentation about something he genuinely loves. He talks about his grandmother's cooking. He talks about the smell of her kitchen on Sunday mornings. He talks about a specific dish she makes, a kind of stew, and how it tastes like home to him.
oh, that's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and his English is not perfect. He mispronounces one word, he hesitates twice, he uses a simple word when a more advanced one would have sounded better. But when he finishes, the whole class is quiet for a second, and someone at the back says, "That was really lovely, James."
Someone said that?
Someone said that because the words weren't perfect, but the feeling was real. And real feeling in any language, in any accent, in any level of English lands. It always lands.
That is everything, actually.
Real feeling always lands. Write that down. That is your reminder for every time you are afraid to speak.
Can I tell you about a moment when I was genuinely too scared to speak in English? A real one.
Please, yes.
Okay. So I was about 19. I was at an international conference, long story, and I had to introduce myself to a group of about 15 people, in English, in front of everyone. And I had prepared, I had rehearsed my introduction maybe 20 times in my hotel room the night before.
20 times.
20 times. And when the moment came, I stood up, I looked at 15 faces looking back at me, and I said, "Hello, my name is Marcus, and I am..." And then I said my country wrong. I completely mispronounced it.
Oh no.
I mispronounced my own country, which how? I have lived there my whole life. But panic does strange things to a brain. And there was a tiny pause, and I thought, this is it. This is the moment I disappear into the floor.
What happened?
The man sitting closest to me, an older man, kind face, just smiled and said, "Great to meet you, Marcus." And the conversation moved on. And nobody said anything about the mispronunciation. And I finished my introduction, shakily, but I finished it.
And nobody remembered the mispronunciation.
Nobody. I am still thinking about it 15 years later, and nobody else remembers it at all.
That is so human, Marcus. We always remember our own mistakes 1,000 times more intensely than anyone else does.
1,000 times more. And the lesson, the real lesson, is that I survived it. I made the mistake. The world did not end. The conversation kept going. And every time after that, it was a tiny bit less scary because I had proof. Proof that mistakes do not end conversations. They are just part of them.
Mistakes do not end conversations. They are just part of them. That should be on a poster in every English classroom in the world.
I will get it printed. What about you, Lena? Your biggest speaking fear moment?
Mine is less dramatic, but equally embarrassing. I was in a cafe in London, this was maybe 7 years ago, and I wanted to order a specific kind of tea, and I could not remember the English name for it. I knew the word in my language, but in English, nothing. Just a blank space where the word should have been.
Oh no, what did you do?
I described it. I said, "Do you have the tea that is kind of like fruit, but not really, and it's pink? The color is pink?"
Pink tea?
Pink tea. And the woman behind the counter looked at me for a second and then said, "Oh, hibiscus tea." And I said, "Yes, that one, hibiscus tea." And she made it, and it was delicious, and we both laughed, and that was that.
You worked around the word you did not know. You described it, and it worked perfectly.
It worked perfectly, and I learned a new word, hibiscus, which I still remember to this day because I had to work for it, because I had to be a little embarrassed and a little creative to get there. And the embarrassment lasted about 4 seconds. The word stayed forever.
The embarrassment lasts 4 seconds. The word stays forever. That's going in the poster too.
We are making a whole collection now.
Okay, vocabulary time. Today's phrases are especially useful for B1 learners. Phrases that help you keep a conversation going even when you're not sure what to say. These are the phrases that buy you time, help you think, and sound completely natural when you use them.
First, what I mean is, This phrase is used when you want to explain or clarify something you just said. For example, it was difficult. What I mean is, it was not impossible, just really challenging. Or, I liked it. What I mean is, not all of it, but most of it.
Second, how do I put this? This is a phrase you use when you are looking for the right words. It gives you a little time to think while still sounding natural. For example, how do I put this? I think the idea is interesting, but the timing is wrong. Or, how do I put this? I wasn't upset. I was more just surprised.
Third, you know what I mean? This is a very common phrase in natural English conversation. You use it at the end of a sentence to check that the other person is following you. For example, it felt like something was missing. You know what I mean? Or, I just wanted a bit more time to think about it. You know what I mean?
Fourth, let me think about that for a second. This is a perfectly natural and polite way to pause in a conversation without going completely silent. Native speakers use it all the time. For example, that's an interesting question. Let me think about that for a second. Or, let me think about that for a second. Okay, yes, I agree with you.
Fifth, what's the word? This is exactly what James's classmate Rosa did. She searched for the word out loud, and it sounds completely natural. For example, I need to buy, what's the word? The thing you use to measure ingredients when you cook? Or, she had a very, what's the word? Persistent? No, determined. She was very determined.
Sixth, something like that. This is used when you're not 100% sure of the exact word or detail, and you acknowledge it naturally instead of getting stuck. For example, I think the film came out in 2019 or something like that. Or, he said he was tired or something like that. I wasn't really listening properly.
And the last one, I'm not sure how to say this, but this is a wonderful phrase that gives you permission to be imperfect. It signals that you know you might not say it perfectly, and that's completely fine. For example, I'm not sure how to say this, but I think the plan needs some changes. Or, I'm not sure how to say this, but thank you. Really, it meant a lot to me.
7 phrases that every B1 learner should have ready. These are your tools for keeping the conversation alive even when your vocabulary runs out. Even when you're not sure, even when you're nervous, use them. They work.
Okay, everyone, we're at the end of episode 6, and I want to say something before we go. If you're a B1 learner, if you're someone who understands more than you can speak, this episode was for you.
You are not behind. You are not failing. You are exactly where every good English speaker was at some point, in the messy middle, where the knowledge is there, but the courage is still catching up.
And the courage catches up the same way James's did, one conversation at a time, one brave sentence at a time, even if the first word is just so, okay.
Even if you mispronounce your own country, even if you describe tea as pink.
Even then, it works. It always works. Real feeling always lands.
Our question of the day. Tell us about a time you tried to speak English and something went wrong. Or something went surprisingly right. We want both stories. Write it in the comments, in English, right now.
And use one of today's phrases if you can. What I mean is, how do I put this? You know what I mean? Practice them right there in the comment. We'll be looking for them and we'll reply.
We will genuinely reply. Please subscribe to DuoTale English, new episode every week, and share this one with someone who needs to stop thinking and start talking today.
Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for practicing. You're doing something really hard and you're doing it anyway. That matters.
It really does. And remember, stop thinking, start talking. The conversation is waiting for you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you next week. Bye, Marcus.
Bye, Lena. And bye to everyone out there who is about to go practice their English. Do it right now. Go.